So looking at pitch correction, or commonly referred to as autotune. Technically it is pitch correction, and autotune is in fact a brand name of a plugin, but this effect is now just commonly referred to as such. On the main vocal on this track, I do actually have some pitch correction going, so let's disable everything else and just listen to it with the pitch correction.
I should have seen it coming, I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face when you're supposed to be my him.
Now, from what I remember, it was quite lightly correcting, so if we disable it, it shouldn't feel hugely different.
I should have seen it coming, I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face.
One of the reasons it doesn't feel hugely different is the response time. So the response time here takes nearly 90 milliseconds before it to correct the pitch. This means the initial 90 milliseconds you hear before is unpitch corrected, or is taking 90 seconds to be corrected. This works nicely and gives it quite a natural way of working. What we'll do is just disable my pitch correction here, and we'll look to set up a completely new one. So it's available under pitch, and it is pitch correction, usually just at the top here. So to set it up, we firstly need to know the key of our track. Now this track is in A sharp minor. So if we just go into scale here, and we're going to grab the natural minor scale, and then we need to change the key over to A sharp. As you can see, it's highlighted the correct keys for us now. If we have a look here, we've got range, normal and low. If you have a very deep voiced singer, you might want to switch this to low, and it changes the detection. Remember, we saw our fundamentals before. They were around the 100 to sort of 300 hertz marker. This will just shift it an octave down to catch those and figure out the correct pitch to correct it. Be on normal for this case. We've then got the keys that are involved. If, for example, you don't want your singer to be hitting an F, we can disable the F and it will correct it to an F sharp. Or we can leave the full range available. We can obviously bypass individual sections as well. Below this, we've got the correction meter. It shows us the amount of correction it's making up or down. Then we've got the response time, really fast or very, very slow, and simply labeled as fast and slow, with about 120 being the average. And then we've got the octave range. We'll have a listen to what that does in just a moment. So if we have a really fast response time,
I should have seen it coming.
That's when we start to get that auto-tune, overtuned effect.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing.
Because in 0 milliseconds, it's correcting to the perfect pitch, and no natural vocal does that. Now, if we start looking at the octave and correction, and we push that up,
I should have seen it coming.
You can hear it's now correcting higher up the frequency spectrum, and if we drop it down for detune,
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing.
If we have a look at the octave change here, if we push it up, it's going to be detuning up the frequency spectrum. If we push it down, it detunes down the frequency spectrum. This can be quite nice to have it just set ever so slightly off, like 1 point of an octave.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing.
Gets a nice harmony effect when you layer vocals together. We can push it up 50 octaves.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing.
It's very exaggerated, and we can also do the opposite.
I should have seen it coming.
If you wanted to layer, I would suggest doing something like +1 and then -3, and create some nice harmonies that way. If you've just got a single vocal, generally leave it on 0. To find the most natural response time, tend to just gradually push it up while correcting. That's how we got around the 80 before.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face when you're supposed to be my him. And now that we are over, I don't regret a thing. You don't deserve my love.
So it feels most natural around 84 milliseconds in this instance. And it's as simple as that. That's how we can auto-tune a vocal. Just have a quick idea of what the harmonizing would be like. If we create a copy here, we'll have them perfectly tuned. So the first one can be on an instant response on 0, and the second instance here we will have that on a perfect response as well, but we'll have it just pitched up plus 1 octave.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face.
It'll really be down to you to blend them in a level balance to get the effect you're after.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face when you're supposed to be my him. And now that we are over.
Sorry, I realised I've been saying octaves before, but I actually meant cent. We can push it at 50 cent either way, not octaves.
I should have seen it coming. I didn't see a thing. You lied right to my face when you're supposed to be my him. I should have seen it coming.
So hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can do the auto-tune or pitch correction effect inside Logic.